Okay, so should we start?
Yes.
Okay, so Namaskar, good evening, everyone. I welcome you all on behalf of Pune River Revival. Uh, it is a citizens' movement for revival of rivers in Pune, and this is spearheaded by more than 60 organizations, 60 social organizations who have come together for these efforts of revival of Pune's rivers. Uh, the main purpose of this movement is to sensitize the citizens and make them active volunteers so that they can participate at individual level as well as collective level in these efforts of revival of the rivers. This webinar series is also an attempt to empower the citizens to become more active members and also to empower active members, active volunteers to find a meaningful niche of working. So we are covering various different dimensions of river revival. Uh, so far, we have covered these plastic pollution, various types of pollutions in in the rivers, sewage pollution, regarding JICA project, then also the aspects of pricing of water. So today it is another interesting topic, which is the water cycle in Anthropocene. So in Anthropocene, especially when we talk about the humans have altered all the natural cycles of almost everything, whether it's a carbon cycle, nutrient cycle, water cycle is one of the prominent of that. And it is altered to an extent where Dr. Priyadarshini says that whatever we learned in our books in schools no more holds true. So let us hear from her that in what way these cycles have been altered and to what extent. So without wasting further time, I'll hand over all these proceedings to Dr. Priyadarshan.
Thanks. Thanks, Manish. Let me share my screen. I hope it's visible, the presentation.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. It should come.
Yeah.
Got it? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to talk about maybe a slightly theoretical topic, but hopefully it will trigger some thought processes. So this is and similar pictures from school textbooks. The famous water cycle. There are the water evaporates from the oceans, forms clouds, it comes down as rain. Some of it gets locked in as snow and ice. Some flows on the surface, some goes underground, becomes groundwater. Ultimately, it ends up in the ocean, and that is what sort of completes the cycle. This picture that is taught to us, and that is something that we take for granted, we have to realize that this is at least a 12,000-year-old image. Because the moment humans shifted to agriculture, their relationship with water changed. The way humans have used water from agriculture onwards in our historical phase is totally different from the way humans used water as hunter gatherers and also other animals using water as species. So that's something that we have to keep in mind, because, and as you can see, the picture that I showed you, or many of the pictures that you see in the textbooks, it doesn't have any person in it. There is nothing which indicates that there is this bipedal species that is walking around on this planet and interacting with water. And that is precisely because our interaction with water changed about 12,000 years ago, but that is never conveyed in this uh, educational input around the water cycle. People started doing agriculture about 12,000 years ago. From that, we built civilizations. From that came urbanization, and then industrialization. Industrialization is hardly a 300-year-old phenomenon. But in each of these phases, as we progressed through our socio-political, economical evolution, our relationship with water changed, and our interference with this natural water cycle also increased. So we have to keep that in mind, that what we are being told is something which was true, which held true thousands of years ago, and thousands of years old knowledge, let's keep it in the museum, let's even keep it in decorated cupboards and admire it and worship it, but let's not put it in textbooks which are supposed to teach people how to deal with today's world. So I'm sort of submitting that we need to change this educational unit on water cycle, because perhaps the reason that we are not consciously engaging with this changed relationship in this educational input, that may be the reason why we are unable to correlate what is happening to the water bodies near us and how that impacts us and how we are impacting those water bodies. So from that perspective, I wanted to highlight this issue. So what is it that has actually changed this particular age that we are living in? In fact, there was a huge debate among geologists for almost a decade. The geological period that we are in currently is called Holocene, and that is what started after the last ice age, and the climatic conditions and in general the conditions on planet earth have been fairly stable. However, from about 1950 onwards, with climate change and other things, these conditions started changing drastically, and therefore there was this huge debate whether we should now declare, and it is the geologists who declare these eras and epochs in the geological history of the earth, whether we should declare this age as Anthropocene or the age of humans, because humans are now impacting the planetary systems. Unfortunately, very recently, the vote was that we should not give that name. And that is primarily because they could not agree on the start date, but that's a different academic discussion. However, in the meanwhile, this term Anthropocene has come into use, and many people have started using it. Even Nature has a journal which is called Anthropocene. So whether geologists want it or not, many people have started calling this the Anthropocene, or the age of humans. So in this age of humans, what is it that we have added to this natural water cycle? So the natural water cycle has rain coming and replenishing every year through a certain cycle. It replenishes the lakes and rivers, which are natural water bodies. It also replenishes groundwater, which is also a natural water body. And then the human intervention is that we stop these flows, both up on the surface and under the surface of the earth. We build dams, we build our own ponds and lakes, and we also build wells and tube wells and so on. So we are basically interfering with the natural flows of water on the surface and under the surface. And then we extract water from this storage and use it for a variety of human activities. The main user of water is still agriculture. Industries are increasingly using water, and of course all the household water usage beyond drinking and keeping ourselves clean. Because of the way human lifestyles have evolved, we have started using water in a variety of ways, even for our day to day living. And then what happens because of all of this is that we are creating sewage or wastewater, which is basically water with a lot of organic and inorganic pollutants, which have become part of it. And where is this water going? This is going back into the natural lakes and rivers from which we are storing water and using it. So this is a sort of a cycle within a cycle. It's a human cycle that we have introduced in the water cycle. And then on top of that, all the other interferences that we have created, as Manish talked about, the carbon cycle is also changing. There are other resource cycles which are changing, because of which the overall seasonal cycles are getting disturbed because of global warming. And that means the rainfall pattern is also changing. So this is what is happening to our natural water bodies, that the water which is coming in from the clouds, that has become uncertain because of climate change. And the water which is coming in through human activity is basically unusable or unpotable or harmful to ecosystems kind of water. So that is what we have created because of our intervention in this water cycle. And it's important to include this in the overall picture of the water cycle now, because this is what is happening on planet earth. A lot of this wastewater ultimately then ends up in the oceans. There is now excess phosphates and nitrates flowing into oceans, which is impacting the ecosystems within the oceans. So the entire natural water cycle from the oceans itself is getting impacted. It's getting disturbed. So how do we address this problem? Does this mean that we should give up on everything that we have achieved in the last 12,000 years and go back and start living as hunter gatherers? Obviously, that is not an option. We can't go back. We can't turn the clock back. So, what is it that we can do so that these introduced components in this current water cycle, how do we reduce their impact on the natural water cycle to the best extent possible? So there are a number of things that we can do, and I have just listed a few very broad ones here. So essentially we want to intervene between the phase where we are storing water in structures that we are creating, and then using that water for meeting our various requirements. What can we do in this pathway which will then address this problem of our adverse interference in the natural water cycle? So, first thing that we have to think about is that every river has its river basin. I mean, since we are talking specifically about Pune in this webinar series, if we think about Pune region, we are part of the Bhima River Basin. So Bhima River Basin has its own. There is data available for hundreds of years. How much water is going to come down through the rain? How much water will be available in different parts of the basin? So actually, we should be planning everything that we do in the river basin based on how much water is available to us. So whether it is planning for crops, which crops to grow where, that should be decided on how much water is actually available for agriculture. Which industries should run in a particular location should be decided by how much water is available at that location, and what should be the population density in that particular river basin. That should also be dictated by this understanding of how much water is available and how we can distribute it over these three major requirements that we have. So whether it is urban planning, whether it is about giving permissions for construction, whether it is about giving permissions for industries to open, whether it is micro planning at a village level as to what kind of crops people should grow, we can put in place policy frameworks, smart policy frameworks, which will ensure that everything is linked with water availability in that ecosystem. If we do that, then that itself will reduce a lot of pressure on the amount of water that we need to store, the amount of dams that we need to build, the amount of wells that we need to dig, the amount of bore wells that we need to dig. So that's number one. Secondly, whatever water we are using for whatever purposes, it should be used with maximum efficiency. I mean, that's a no brainer. We should use efficient processes, and we should use efficient technologies. And we should also focus on creating green and circular processes in this water cycle. So this green and circular, these are two different things. The green part essentially is about, as I said, the way we are currently using water, water ends up having a lot of organic and inorganic pollutants. Now, organic pollutants are relatively easier to deal with. They will decompose on their own. We can use microbes to deal with them. There are a variety of simple, low energy processes with which organic pollutants can somehow be dealt with. Inorganic pollutants, or the harmful chemicals which end up in our wastewater, that is the bigger challenge. We need to spend a lot of energy, and there are, I mean, some pollutants cannot be removed. So, firstly, our processes should be such that we should not introduce chemical pollution in the wastewater. So, chemical free lifestyle, chemical free farming, chemical free industries, that should be our goal. So, that is the greening part. And then the other part is that if our wastewater will primarily have organic waste that can be relatively easily cleaned up, then the wastewater with a minimal treatment can be used for some other purposes. So that circularity also becomes easier once we go for greening our processes. And if we are using the wastewater again and again, then our requirement for fresh water also reduces. So that solves various problems. That sewage treatment becomes easier. And if we put this in mind, that once, I mean, what is the water that we are ultimately going to release in the natural water bodies, that should be close, if not same, as the quality of water that we lifted from that water body. So if we reduce the wastewater going out of this system in the first place, and we reduce the harmful pollutants in it, then a number of things become easier to achieve. And that, what that will do is, if our overall water requirement will reduce, which means that our need for water storage will reduce, which means that there will be, so today, for example, we see that so many dams have been built on rivers that there is hardly any natural water flow left in the rivers, apart from whatever little groundwater streams that are coming in. But even those are being destroyed by extraction or by concretizing. So if our need for water storage reduces, we can afford to keep water flowing, and that will ensure that the river ecosystem also stays maintained. So the natural water cycle will still operate in spite of this little cycle that is going on in the middle of it, where we are extracting water and using it to meet various other needs that no other species has. And in the process, we will have put in place mechanisms, economic processes, social processes, lifestyle processes, which will automatically also have positive impacts for other resource cycles. And in general, we will see that the carbon emission, for example, will reduce, and the rate at which the global warming is happening will also start reducing. So this is the kind of thought process that needs to go in policy making and planning at the local level. What can I do? That is always a question that people ask. And I have taken just one example here because this is one very popular activity that happens in Pune, where a number of groups go out and participate in river cleaning or river bank cleaning over the weekends. Now, this is one activity which can have negative as well as positive impacts. We have to first realize that this is primarily a symbolic activity, because it is not really addressing the causes which are creating all that garbage on the river banks, or dirt in the river flow in the first place. So if you do this river cleaning, put your photographs on Instagram, and if that gives you a feeling that I have done my civic duty, then actually this has done more harm than good, because then you are sort of going to shut your brain from Monday to Friday to any other discussion around what needs to happen on the river. If this activity makes you feel that I just don't want to keep doing this every week, so what can I do which will ensure that once I have cleaned this Saturday Sunday, it will remain clean when next weekend I visit this river bank. If you start thinking along those lines, and if you come across some actions and start implementing them, then I would say that this activity has been somewhat useful. But it will be really useful if you really start deeply rethinking your life choices. If you want your river banks to look beautiful, if you want your river to look clean, if you want your river to be flowing, then it depends on how you are using water in your house. It also depends on what choices you are making professionally, purchasing decisions, and also decisions when you go and start working at a job or start your own business. Do you have the moral courage, if you are working in an industry, or if you are working in an office, if you are working in any workspace where you see that water usage is not rational, and there is a lot of wastage happening unnecessarily, do you have the courage to want to step up and try and change those systems? And are you even willing to leave the job if you find that the higher ups are not willing to listen to you and address these issues? So that is the level to which, if you are willing to go, then only these weekend cleanup activities would have achieved something. So basically the point I am trying to make here is that in order to keep the rivers clean and flowing, you don't even have to go to the river. All the action needs to happen in our lives, in our homes, in our public spaces, in our workspaces. Even if you don't visit the river for months, it doesn't matter. If you are doing the right things with water usage, you will have contributed to keeping the river clean and flowing. And that then sort of extends to this, that any activity, sort of beautification of river banks, is totally useless. Where I mean, if the river becomes clean and starts flowing naturally, the river will beautify its banks itself. We don't have to do anything about it. And concretizing to do beautification is actually harming the river more than doing any good for it. So this is the sort of way of thinking that I somehow feel that we have to start um, uh, uh, internalizing, and then the solutions will start appearing. So I'm going to stop here. You will find a lot of information about what is happening to Pune's rivers on the website of Pune River Revival. I have given the website address there. PRR is also fairly active on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. There is a WhatsApp group. I am sure somebody will be putting the link in chat. And the work that we do, I mean, this is just one webinar, but there are a lot of things that are happening to try and protect the rivers of Pune region, and to make them flow cleanly once again. That effort requires money also. So do donate generously. Those details will also be told to you in a few minutes. These webinars are happening every week, and in each webinar we try to sort of talk about one topic. So you may not get all the answers in one webinar, but if you keep engaging with this activity every week, then slowly you will start seeing what you can do um, to not be part of the problem and start becoming part of the solution. The recordings of the webinars are also going to be available on PRR's YouTube channel. There were previous webinars; those recordings also you can see there. So I'm going to stop here and hand it over back to Manish. Thank you.
Thank you. That was quite insightful. And a lot of thoughts started coming in the mind. Uh, just I would like to have first question from my side. If you can elaborate slightly more on, you mentioned that the difficulty level of treating organic pollution as against chemical pollution. So that would give some, or rather, if chemical pollution is less, it becomes easier to treat organic.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
this concept is a bit elaborated, that would be
Well, that's not really my area of work, so I can't give you the nuts and bolts of how that happens. But it is
conceptually, yes.
basically, conceptually, it is like this, that if you have any kind of, and this is true even of solid waste, organic waste is relatively easier to get rid of. I mean, microbes are our greatest helpers. In this case, we can use natural ecosystem processes to eat whatever waste we are generating in a very clean and odorless and pollutionless manner. So since we are using mostly natural processes for doing that, we don't have to spend additional energy. It may require some space, it may require some time, but the energy cost of these processes is much less. But if we have heavy metal pollutions and harmful pollutants in water, then the overall effort to remove that is entirely on us, because there is nothing in nature that we can take help of to remove these pollutants. So it is this this difference which makes, I mean, if we have to, I mean, it is inevitable that some pollution will end up in water. So might as well make sure that we not allow inorganic materials to go in water. Let it be organic if it has to be there.
Right. There is one comment, presence of xenobiotics, that is synthetic chemical compounds, is not natural. So natural ways to degrade those and it causes their saturation beyond threshold. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
True.
And as long as organic waste is not tied inside a plastic bag.
Yeah, of course, I mean, solid waste should not end up in water in the first place. That's a given. uh,
Yeah, waiting for a few
Excuse
questions.
me, I have this is Jigar here. I have a point, or actually, I like the comment that Priyadarshini ma'am you mentioned at the last, right? In terms of you don't have to clean the river, you don't have to go to the banks of the river to clean it, right? You have to start it at your
yeah,
home.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I I mean, look, I mean, I've been just recently associated with this, right? But even till date, I find it a little challenging to kind of cut out my portion of chemicals, right? I mean, chemicals in terms of soaps, hair conditioners, shampoos, and all those things. Is there a way, or is there a list of I don't know. I mean, probably a collateral
yeah,
or
yeah,
any a
yeah,
poster
yeah,
or something which
yeah,
tells a common man, right? I mean, I don't want to see. I don't want to kind of get into the too much of
yeah, yeah,
jargons and synthetics and all those things. I want to say in a
yeah,
simple terms, if I want to explain myself, my family, and my colleagues,
yeah,
because that's where I start from. How
yeah,
do I
yeah.
do that?
Yeah. So keep engaging with these Wednesday webinars, and there will be a webinar at some point on toxin-free lifestyle, where you will get to know about some of the products that can replace the chemical-containing products that we are using. But this is going to be a challenge, and that is where. Uh, that is where I feel also, I mean, this is not something that I talked about today, but we need disruptive changes in our entire social, political, and economic systems today you go to any shop and all these chemical containing products are very easily available. Now we may tell you a few organic substitutes for that, but those are not going to be available in your neighborhood shop. You will have to get those from through some special channels. So there is an effort involved there, and that is because the chemical containing products are being manufactured. I mean, that is the mainstream business process. And this uh, sort of environment friendly or green product manufacturing is still a sideline boutique kind of a process. So somewhere we need to reverse that, and to make that happen, a lot of other things need to happen around. And that is why I feel that cleaning the river is something that needs to happen everywhere else except in the riverbed.
Good evening, this is Srilata here. Just
hi.
wanted a quick, I don't know what a first aid kit or a tool base to say. Largely, what can we say that these are a safe, safe toiletries and these are unsafe. If we can just largely have to bifurcate them. As you said, I am basically an aggregator. I promote all these eco-friendly products and stuff like that. But this is one question now.
I was just going to say that Srilata, you would know this more better than me.
Right. But I'm always time and again. So I mainly promote products made by NGOs and stuff like that. But then they come with many questions like, ye eco-friendly hai kya? Ye nahi hai kya? So that's always so.
Yeah, that's true, and that is what I'm saying, that we need business processes which will sort of favor these green products. We need like there are all these testing protocols which are easily accessible, certifications and labels and so on and so forth. So all of that needs to happen for green products, because that is also one concern that I have. Increasingly what I'm seeing is that people are labeling anything and everything as green. uh, so somewhere we need ways and means of verifying, and there should be neutral agencies which are certifying. But all that systems, those systems are not yet in place. Those systems will need to be put in place. So we are at a very early stage in this transformative process.
I think we should look at a situation where truly green products become cheaper than the
Cheaper and more easily accessible.
more easily and convenient available. That is the kind of disruption we are.
Okay, there are some questions coming in.
Yeah, there are some comments by Jaideep.
Yes, Purnima, please go ahead.
I think Jaideep wants to say that shouldn't volunteers and educators focus on regulating industries which seem to be low-hanging fruit compared to urging people to change to toxin-free lifestyle? Because it's hard to get to people to change behavior. That's also something right,
no,
actually.
That's what I'm saying, that if you, I mean, any person who has some conscience goes to a shop, and if you see two products which are sort of similarly priced and one is obviously better for the environment, you would buy that. But today the problem is that the products are just not available easily, and that is what prevents people from going towards this. So sustainability need not be inconvenient. That is something that I mean, sometimes people keep on saying that TK, for the sake of environment, why don't you suffer through some inconveniences? But that's the wrong attitude to have. With that attitude, we will have very few people shifting to these products. So the product developers also have to have this in mind, that how do we make this product easier to use, than the conventional products, and how do we make it more easily accessible than the conventional products. And that is going to require a big influx of finance into these green businesses. So somewhere, and that is why I'm saying that the change needs to happen in the economic thinking, the banking systems, and it's an entire thought process change that is required across the board. But we have to also keep in mind, and this is again something which I say very often, that humans were hunter gatherers for a few 100,000 years, and then within 1,000 years they shifted to agriculture, which is an entirely different way of life. From agriculture to urbanization is an entirely different way of life. From and industrial revolution is hardly 300-year old. So all the economic systems, this whole idea of money, even the idea of nation states, which has become part of our
Yeah.
identity, is hardly a few 100-year-old idea. So if humans change something which existed for hundreds of thousands of years, why are we afraid of changing something which has existed just for a few 100 years? It should be actually much easier to change these processes which are relatively new.
Yes, actually, maybe people don't see it that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, so more and more, I think we should stress on this more, that we can definitely change. I think then we just have uh, a suggestion by Prajakta that we can come with a list of green
Yeah.
products on the website. And yes, of course, this can be one of the topics of the webinar.
So in fact, Jeevit
And
Nadi does conduct workshops
yes,
which introduces a number of these products. But we should, I mean, that's a topic in our webinar plan also going ahead. But there is also a comment about policies that are required to plan how housing and urbanization is spread evenly. It's not about spreading evenly. It is about putting some rational thought into what should be the population density in which is dependent on a particular body of water. So it is the water availability that should dictate what should be the size of the, I mean, how many floors should be there for buildings, and what should be the areas of houses that a municipal corporation sanctions, because that is I mean, we are having now so many people living in or dependent on the waters of let's say Pune region, that we are running out of water. So that is not a desirable situation for anybody. So it is not about spreading evenly. It is basically, you can even have pockets of high density, but the overall density in that ecosystem, which is depending on, let's say, a river basin, that is what one has to be mindful of.
right. I think equity, the thing that we talk about, equity, that matters. Then there is Shailaja has suggested that we can organize a training on understanding which products are eco-friendly and which are not. MSDS, look for MSDS of every ingredient she has suggested. Then consumerism is the bigger problem. So is the cause of global warming, somebody is saying, and having more children. Maybe I think each newborn adds 58.6 tons of
No,
CO2. Okay.
well, I don't subscribe to that viewpoint. Firstly, population is a solved problem, so let's not worry about global population. Population density is a different issue altogether, and total population is a different issue altogether. Population is stabilizing and is in fact going to go down as we go ahead, and that will bring its own challenges going ahead. The bigger problem today is that 10% of this population of 8 billion people is using 50% of the earth's resources, and remaining 90% people have to manage within whatever that is remaining. So that increasing consumerism that is putting bigger stress on the Earth's resources than the population numbers.
Yes, I think, yeah, it was required to clear that. So again, Jaideep has commented that about life cycle analysis, that like how much water, I think water footprint and water, how
Yep.
much is used. That did that idea die out? He's saying. So I don't think so.
No, it's around. It's just that it is a bit more complicated to accurately know water footprint, and in fact, we are trying to figure out. We already have a easy to use carbon footprint calculator for urban individuals that Purnima and I have worked on. It is available on a website, climatora.com. Purnima, you can put that in the
Yes.
chat. On the same website, we are also, as a team with Climatora, we are trying to put together a water footprint calculator, which will be easy to calculate and give some sense of what is our uh, pattern of use of water, how that is impacting. And as we are looking at that, it is increasingly becoming obvious that it is not as simple as tracking greenhouse gases, for example. So it's a bit complicated to do these type of life cycle analysis, but industries do that. It is also sort of a requirement for them for some of the industries, but we need simple tools which will allow individuals also, or small organizations, small businesses, to also understand what exactly is happening to the water that we use, and where the water that we use is coming from.
Yes. So I have added the link to the carbon footprint calculator, and as we get the water footprint calculator, we'll share that also with everybody.
Yes.
So yes, and Shailaja is also saying that disparity is also a bigger problem,
Yeah.
a big
Yeah.
problem.
That is
Srilata,
true.
yeah, Srilata mentioned have and the have-nots. Like,
Yeah. That's the consumption
yeah,
issue. Yeah.
yeah,
I just wanted to ask
Okay.
about
Yeah.
the Popat Rao Pawar
Yeah. Got it. Got it.
water
Yeah.
policy
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
where the whole idea was water, basically rainwater or harvesting, but
Yeah.
how it has to be properly utilized once the water comes to the village. And
Mm.
that's been a wonderful example, probably.
Yeah.
But
No,
then not,
that's true. That's true.
but
Actually,
yet
that's
not
a good
many.
example of water planning. But again, one has to wonder, why is it not replicated by other villages, in spite
Exactly,
of the
that's what
fact
I
that
was coming at. See why
yeah,
that
yeah,
gap has happened. If it is so
yeah,
successful, they are so good for the for a long term benefit, then why is it not being
yeah.
replicated?
So I mean, it's all boils down to the couple of things. One is that is it really? I mean, there is an effort involved, and secondly, is that aspirational? One, we have to make zero carbon and minimalistic lifestyle trendy, uh, so that it becomes aspirational. Then people may be more willing to put in that additional extra effort that is required.
Right, right.
Okay, I think we are also
yeah.
running out of time. Yeah.
I think if we are done with the questions, then Jaideep, do you want to talk about the donations for a bit?
Absolutely. I was waiting for that because, all the changes that Priyata suggested, I think they take a long time. I'm personally experimenting with a lot of things, growing a beard, trying different things to eliminate shaving cream, trying out how much perspiration and smells people can tolerate. All that is a lot of work. So I have to say there is a far easier way you can contribute, which is give money to people who are working hard on saving our rivers. Uh, Saving the rivers involves a lot of costs. Costs like volunteers have to travel for water testing, stream mapping, transport. There's software that we have to use. There are admin costs. We have to do RTIs. We even get into litigation. PRR incurs a lot of cost in that. And all of these costs are borne by many of the volunteers who are present right now. I'm sure if I called out their names, I'd get fired by them. So I want to urge everyone to pitch in. Please give. Every rupee helps. Yeah, mentally, please plan, because the thing about donation is if you don't commit to yourself that, hey, I'll do this by the end of today or by the end of tomorrow, it just becomes like, oh, I mentally contributed, and then you don't. So I want to urge everyone to commit to yourself by when you will get all the details I've shared, and I'll put it back again. I think Amit has already shared that again. So please make a note of it. I'll also try to replicate it on the PRR group, on Friends of ES, and wherever you found this. If you can't give today, please reach out to me and make a commitment that, hey, I'd like to give, say, 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, whatever. Just put my list, and when there is an expense to be incurred, you can pay directly. We can start building a list towards that as well. So I appreciate every rupee would count. Thanks for listening in, and please donate generously. And my number is also on that.
Thank you, Jaideep. So I think I'll just quickly say thanks. Thanks, Priyadarshini, for it was really insightful. And I think many of us learned for the first time how the water cycle is changed. And we understand that it's everybody's duty and how we have to change our lifestyle. I'm also really looking forward to that water footprint calculator that you are working on, and I think it will be beneficial to everybody. I would also like to thank everybody who participated. Because of your questions and comments, it was quite lively and useful. If you have missed our previous webinars, then you can go to our YouTube channel and you can see all the previous webinars there. They are all very, very useful. And we are going to continue this on every Wednesday. So do come back next Wednesday and the following Wednesdays for more insights and more discussions. Okay, so that's all about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Great
Bye.
session.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.